business groups initially. Some of the like young YPO or MBA programs that are out there, because I've met so many people that have already gone through all the mistakes that I also ended up going through. And had I had some of these people that are today my mentors be my mentor then, I probably would have made less mistakes, and I probably would have saved a lot of money.
Interesting.
So that would have been my
I'm
biggest.
going to come back and ask you about one of those mistakes in a second. But
I'd say, honestly, I probably would have ordered more product up front.
Order more product?
Yeah, because, I was very skittish in the beginning because, I certainly didn't want to go into debt creating this product. And having to do a reorder is a wonderful problem to have. But that's just one thing, is that I think it ends up costing you a lot more in the end because you're paying for a lot. And another thing is I would have been much more thoughtful about shipping.
So we haven't covered shipping enough. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so because our cases are small, we can actually ship over FedEx, UPS, things like that. I don't have to crate ship. And so we can get it quick. But the problem is, I made the very silly mistake early on of just giving my UPS account or FedEx account, I forget which one, to the manufacturer and said, just use my account, it'll be easier. I didn't realize that they actually have shipping agents that are going to help me save so much money. So what should have cost me, I don't remember what the exact number, but the bottom line is I paid about 4 times in shipping costs than what I should have paid. And there was the language barrier. And so I didn't understand that they had resources there. It was a very expensive problem to make.
And so making smart decisions on shipping saves you margin, which you can invest in your business. What about you? How has shipping happened for your business?
Well, similar. My product is small. So I can ship UPS, FedEx. I don't have to use ships. I can just go air freight. And it's been a toss-up. I didn't really know initially that the manufacturers could assist with that, and some can't. Some just don't really have that ability. So it wasn't always something that was a tool at my disposal, but you really learn very quickly that shipping is such a wide range of pricing. If you used freight companies here in the States that are going to go pick it up wherever it is in the world, or international companies and bringing it over, just do your research. That's really the biggest thing, is get at least 5 quotes before you make a decision. Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, and bring on, if you've never manufactured or brought in products like that, one thing that later on, which was really helpful for me, was hiring a consultant. And I'm not talking about like a very high-end expensive person. I'm talking about somebody who's done this before, and I was just like, listen, I have no money, but can I give you a little bit just to pick your brain, or a mentor?
Interesting. So we're going to wrap up, but as we sort of get ready to wrap up, one of the things I was thinking as you guys were both sharing your stories was the fearlessness and determination that you showed to build your business has sort of been a hallmark, I think, of your success. Also, the amount of trust that you had to have with someone. You couldn't realize your dream without creating trust with someone who was going to help you manufacture a product. And the 11 p.m. phone call, or the problem in the supply chain and running out of the screen, and getting that information back, and how valuable that is. And so, in some ways, you can do anything if you have information about what's going on, because then you can solve that problem. I think that's a pretty interesting lesson for entrepreneurs who are building and sort of entering the global economy to try to think about, is the more you share and the more you build trust, the more likely you could be successful. So before we wrap, are there other advice that you'd like to give to people out there, either manufacturers who are working with Western brand businesses or people who are sourcing globally?
I would say for those manufacturers who are interested in working with more American companies, if you're able to, don't be afraid to start small and work on a smaller order quantity. I unfortunately, many conversations, actually maybe fortunately, because it whittles it down quickly, but the minimum order quantity is a big thing. When I'm startup, I can't make a major investment. The other thing is, I would say for companies like me who are looking to get into it and never used Alibaba, you were talking about risk earlier. There is the trade assurance where I just put a new order in and was able to say, I want to do trade assurance, and they just We use the platform. I use the Alibaba to pay for it. I have trade assurance. I know that if they don't deliver, if it's bad, I'm going to get basically a refund. I'm covered. It's not that I'm not taking a risk, because ultimately it would cost me a lot of time and money to have to start from scratch. But it helps mitigate that, and it gives a little bit of peace of mind. And in terms of the fearlessness, look, we all, I think, have people that in our lives who maybe have been good models for that. Then we've been able to be like, I guess it's doable. Why don't we just try it? And so I would encourage anybody who has an idea that if you're looking to make a product or manufacture it, don't let people tell you, it's not possible, it's expensive, it's hard to do, you've got to be, OtterBox or one of these big companies if you want to get into this market. No, you don't. The internet has democratized the ability to manufacture and sell products. You can build an audience, and maybe it'll be small, but maybe that'll continue to grow, and maybe someday OtterBox will buy me out.
There you go. What about you, Hamilton? Before we take questions, I know, so while you have a moment, think about if you have a question for these folks, and we'll give you a chance in just a second.
So I have a few ideas. Thinking outside the box is a big thing. So many people think that, I have to go to Asia, or I have to go to Europe, I have to go to the manufacturer, and I haven't been to my manufacturer for the first 7 years of my business. They always came to me. They actually would fly out to the States. They'd visit all their clients on their American tour is what they called it.
Yep.
And I was just one of them. So that was excellent because we would go out to dinner. We would talk about what we wanted to do, new projects, how are the old projects working, what is, what isn't, and we would go from there. And that was how I did business for the first almost 7 years. 7 years was the first time I actually took a trip to one of my manufacturers. So if you think outside the box and get rid of that idea that, I have to make that trip to go see how the product is being made, that's really not the case. For manufacturers, if they want to solicit American companies, I get emails a lot now from different watch manufacturers, and they say, hey, here's my catalog. And they'll send the catalog, and it'll have 1,000 SKUs on it, and the little price points of every watch. And what they've never actually done is gone to my website. There's no way.
100% agree with you. Right?
There is no way that I am going to buy one of their products and just put my logo on it. As I stated just earlier, every single watch of mine is custom. Every single watch that I make has an internal rotating bezel. If they don't send me a catalog with at least one SKU that has an inner rotating bezel, I trash it. So do a little bit of research if you are going to solicit a company.
I think this is an important distinction, which is your time is so valuable. You built a successful business. If a manufacturer wants to do business with you, they have to demonstrate enough respect for the business you've built to customize what they present to you. Because if they do, clearly you demonstrate lots of trust. So let's do this. I wanted to open it up. My friend Sonny's here. If people have questions or comments or observations, I see one in the back over here. Gentlemen, go ahead.
Hi.
Howdy.
Sorry.
So just introduce yourself if you would.
I am Michael Robinson. I'm of a manufacturer, but of a different kind, so cosmetic products. But I deal with Europe actually a lot, so I deal with some of the same problems that you did, with the new year. August is closed. You can't get anything done.
Just hold the mic up so we can hear you.
August is closed. You can't get anything done. So I was curious, and you were talking about kind of hedging against those problems, right, by just front-loading some of your development work and kind of prefiguring, I'm going to need to get things done ahead of time. But also, what's your take on going domestic, right? And I don't know if Alibaba has that ability, or I don't know if you maybe even spoke to them.
There are U.S.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about hedging the risk and domestic manufacturing. As a point of fact, just for context, Alibaba does have on Alibaba.com, U.S. manufacturers can join the platform and participate just like people in South America can or in Europe can. It's a global platform.
I would say, first of all, I would certainly love to take manufacturing in state if I could, just so I can take a car ride out to go visit the plant. Cost is certainly an issue. To be honest with you, quality is also an issue. I mean, these people that I'm working with, this is what they do. It's what they do really well. So I wouldn't say that I'm chosen a manufacturer based on price alone. It's based on experience and that trust. But I've always, and I have not ruled out keeping manufacturer, bringing it stateside for any new products. And thankfully, I'm actually seeing more and more manufacturers within the United States on the platform, on Alibaba. And we are also in the process of listing our product as a source for other places on Alibaba.
It's cool.
And I have found several of my manufacturers in the States. One produces bands out of Florida. Another one produced gold. We did a run of gold jewelry, and they were out of New York. The manufacturer in Florida was fantastic. The gold manufacturer in New York was horrific. They're actually probably they're out of business now, but they were one of the worst manufacturers I'd ever dealt with. And what I discovered is with American manufacturers in the watch world, there's absolutely nothing. I really don't have an option for American watchmakers. And even there is one company out there called Shinola out of Detroit, but they actually still get their watches made abroad. So the only thing that they make in the U.S. is the leather bands. So that doesn't really work for me. So I don't have that option, unfortunately. So I'm stuck with dealing with those international issues.
Another question I saw over here.
Hi, my name is Greg Yagan.
Hey, Greg.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for being here. First of all, this is very nice.
Thanks for having us.
I'm an inventor working on my very first product that I'm going to bring to market. I'm a marketer by trade, but I've never really designed anything. I've never been an engineer.
Neither did I.
And I find that there's lots of constraints not knowing these things. And I start to talk to people doing CAD work and design, and they're just saying, just for the CAD design work, it's going to be 15 grand. I'm like, 15 grand? That doesn't even include the prototyping costs. And I'm just curious, like, what have been your processes for designing? Is it here locally designing and then you go and outsource it for manufacturing, or are they designing for you as well?
What I did was, because I knew nothing about that, it's a great question, because that was probably the first hurdle I had. It was just a cell phone case. I mean, I could draw it on a piece of paper. You know, I was like, how hard is this going to be? I actually thought, I was naive enough to think that I could figure it out myself, like CAD. And I literally sat in front of the computer and was like, what am I doing? Like, I don't know what I'm doing, you know? So I just talked to a couple of friends who are engineers, recommended somebody who was an industrial engineer, and what I was able to do, because I couldn't offer the guy a lot of money, so I said, look, I can either pay you practically nothing, or I can pay you a royalty, and if these things ever sell, then you'll make a little bit of money, and that was the arrangement we had on our first round of cases. So that's one way to work things out. You mentioned business owners and entrepreneur groups. I joined in New York. There is a group called the Inventors Association of Manhattan. That's how I not only found my patent attorney, it's how I found another industrial engineer. These groups are other people like us who have ideas that want to bring them to life and just need a little help. They're out there, they're free. Use meetup.com to find them. And you will connect with people who are hungry, who are actually interested in the work and maybe just as passionate about the idea as you are. And you'll find a way to make it work. But don't stop because you think it's going to be too expensive, and don't overinvest. Is my tiny, humble advice. Overinvest in something and then realize, I just spent 30 grand on something that nobody's going to buy. You know what I mean?
And for me, I specifically look for manufacturers that have design teams. So in the watch world, the watch industry really doesn't like me sometimes because I don't make watches according to how watch companies make watches. Typically what a watch company will do is they will have the designers, and they'll have a beautiful set of designers create amazing, gorgeous designs, and then they'll release them to the public and see which one sells the best, and that's the one that they mass market. For me, I'm much more about the functionality of the product first, and then we can make it beautiful. So the design is actually kind of on the wayside. So I need a manufacturer who's going to make it functional first. And then if you have your own design team, you already know the inner workings of what I'm trying to create with this watch. Maybe it has to have a flight computer on it. Maybe it has to go down this step. I want a world timer on it. I want it to be automatic and have a chronograph on it. You know, there's all these different things that I need to have happen. So I want the function there over everything, because my customers, they use it. They really use the watch. So I've always and only worked with manufacturers that have internal design teams.
This is great. Both great advice. Do you have a follow-up question?
No.
The question
No,
is, do you have design teams locally?
And I do not have design teams locally. What I do now, like we're doing a tactical watch right now. So I'm not in law enforcement or military or anything like that. So I've pulled a group of women together. There's 8 women, and it's in a secret Facebook group, honestly. And we're all over the country, and what they're doing, I just posted something about a paracord strap, you know, like the ones you can unravel to have rope. I'm like, hey, what if I made the watch have a paracord strap? And I think overwhelmingly they were all like, no, that's so gimmicky, don't do it. Once you get sweat, once you get water on it, starts to smell, don't do it. And I was like, okay, perfect, scratch that off the list. So they're actually my design team, but they're more a design team from the functional use. So it's not like an internal design team.
Interesting. You can look at platforms like Elance and others where you can find freelancers or competitively bid projects and break it into chunks so you can test drive some design one piece of it and see if they get back to you and do a good job, and then unleash the whole project would be one thing to think about.
And I think that idea about the internal design team is such a good one. As you're whittling down your manufacturers, you save money and time too.
So any last question to anybody? Last question before we break up? All right, well this has been, it looked like there was one over here. Go ahead.
Just a quick question. I use AliExpress. I'm an run an e-commerce business, so I don't really use Alibaba. I've looked on there before, and there's more bigger items I think that they ship out. AliExpress is more e-packet. Do you guys have any experience with AliExpress or using those suppliers at all?
I've used AliExpress for packaging. So I've definitely found a lot of packaging manufacturers there, and they've been great. You know, Alibaba and AliExpress are interchangeable to me. So if I'm looking on one, I'm looking on the other.
We've been looking at doing more with AliExpress for us and for our product, but I don't really use them for this, but I use them for a previous product that we did, and again, interchangeable.
I think generally AliExpress is generally perceived to be a consumer-facing platform, and Alibaba.com is for professionals who are, even if you're sourcing product that is in low quantities, you're at the beginning of that relationship with the manufacturer that can grow with your business, and sort of those are, I think, a distinction that may be important over time. Well, listen, everybody, this has been a fantastic discussion. Thank you both. Michael and Abington, you are
having us.
Amazing entrepreneurs, so we're grateful for your participation today. Thanks.
معلم أحلى انترفيو بحضره من زمان يعني. يلا إن شاء الله خير.